I'm not a professional negotiator. However, I'm going to be a little bold and say that after 20 years in tech, specifically as 20 years a Latina in tech, I am an expert at negotiating. My Colombian mother likes to say that I've used up 8 of my 9 lives. A mi madre colombiana le gusta decir que yo ya he usado 8 de mis 9 vidas. But I will be brief, and I will tell you about the main ones. Y con mis disculpas, lo tendré que hacer en inglés. First, as the tech startup cliché goes, I dropped out of college and I spent 15 years in tech as both an entrepreneur and an intrapreneur, advising everyone from Microsoft and Hewlett-Packard to Disney, Mattel, MTV, and the BBC. In my last and largest project, I co-led the creation of the world's largest private crowd, which we built to help companies like Google and Bing improve their algorithms in over 60 languages through crowdsourcing. Then about 5 years ago, I left and co-founded a center to support women entrepreneurs with the Athena Center for Leadership Studies at Barnard College of Columbia University. And finally, very exciting, next week, I'm launching Brava Investments, a company that invests in high-growth businesses that both do well for investors and improve the economic lives of women. It's my favorite sentence in the whole world. Brava invests in high-growth businesses that do well for investors and improve the lives of women. So that's me. Now, why do we care about negotiation? Fundamentally, I think it's because we care about success. Negotiation, at the end of the day, is discussing how we succeed. So I want to take a moment to examine how we frame this before we get into the topic. A little bit of history. The topic of the talk today is getting to yes, which comes from a now classic negotiation book by Harvard professor William Ury called Getting to Yes. But I want to look critically at this idea of getting to yes, and if I may be so bold, I would like to reframe it. I want us to make up our own mind about what success looks like, about how we as women want to get there. And why is framing important? One of my favorite examples is a study where a group that was split evenly between men and women was put through a negotiation exercise, and it was divided into 2 teams. One team was given a pep talk that said that the key to succeeding at this negotiation exercise was winning at whatever costs, it was getting what you want, it was being aggressive, and a litany of other stereotypically masculine traits. The other group was given a very different pep talk. That group was told that the key to succeeding was being collaborative, was being empathetic. It was qualities that were stereotypically feminine qualities. The result? The women disproportionately underperformed in the first group. And the women in the second group who identified with the qualities, by a large margin outperformed their male colleagues. Reframing things matters. It changes the outcome. Forget about negotiating to yes. Let's negotiate how to succeed, whatever that means for you. And the reason that I care about this, probably the best illustration is a study that just came out this week by McKinsey and Sheryl Sandberg's Lean In. And in that study, we learned that women of color are leaning in, which to me means we're saying yes, but we're getting nowhere. We represent 3% of executives in the C-suite in the United States, despite the fact that we represent 20% of the population. Maybe success in negotiation isn't about getting to yes. Maybe we've been saying yes for a very long time. Yes to getting paid 50 cents on the dollar if you're Latina. Yes to taking on the majority of the economic burden for our families, for our elders, for our children. Yes to doing the majority of the housework. Yes to being the only woman in the room. Yes to being criticized for what we're wearing instead of what we're doing. Yes to only getting 4.7% of all venture capital. Yes to businesses that harm us economically and sometimes physically. Yes to the idea that in order to succeed, a company cannot concern itself with doing good, because that's the job of NGOs and some governments. My proposal to you is, what if we don't need any more advice on getting to yes? What if success on our terms requires that we examine all the things that we have accepted as status quo and instead start really exercising our no muscle. This week, the Wall Street Journal published an op-ed. I don't know if any of you read it. It was written by a venture capitalist called John Greathouse. He's a partner from Rincon Venture Partners, and in it he suggests that women hide their gender in order to get ahead in business. What if the best way to negotiate with people like our friend, Mr. Greathouse, is to simply, clearly, and unequivocally tell him that the answer is no? Or my mom would say, no gracias, mijito. I know that the good organizers of this conference looked at my bio and thought I would be able to tell you all about my career in tech and my track record of getting to yes despite being the only woman in the room for most of my career, and let's be real, the only Latina for miles. And I know that they looked at my most recent company, Brava, and thought that I would be able to tell you stories about negotiating investments with great outcomes. And I really do have some great stories to tell you. But I hope they will forgive the fact that I decided to take the more frank path. And while the organizers are right, I've spent my career turning no's into yeses. If I'm honest, my negotiations may have led to yes. If I'm honest, they didn't always lead me to success on my terms. If I look now at the world of tech, 20 years in, I can't say that I left it any better than I found it. In fact, I would argue that tech today is worse than when I started my first tech startup when I was 20. So maybe the biggest thing you can learn from me is to do it differently, to forget about the optics of success, to focus on outcomes on your terms, which is why my big epiphany and the lesson that I humbly pass on to you today is never mind getting to yes. You already know how to get to yes. We all do. We have spent our lives excelling at surviving even when the odds were against us. We are experts at squeezing yeses out of walls of no. It's time we add a tool to our toolbox and start exercising that no muscle. If you take anything from this talk, take this. No is your friend. No is an important part of a negotiation. It is as important as yes. Walking into a negotiation without both of those muscles well exercised is walking into a negotiation half prepared. Negotiating to yes presumes that there's a no that you're trying to convert. It suggests that someone else owns the answer. I don't know about you, but that's a very glass half empty way of looking at the world. Let's stop negotiating to someone else's yes and instead negotiate to success on your terms. And right now, for most of us, that means doing what we do best. That means balancing the good with the bad. It means the light with the dark, balancing the yeses with the nos. Remember that study? The story of the women who were collaborative and empathetic, who used their qualities to outperform their colleagues? They identified themselves in the story of success, and the result was success their way. So here's the thing. There's a seat at the negotiating table, and it's waiting for you. Because there's a whole generation of brilliant girls watching each and every one of us. And they are expecting us to say no. No to 50 cents on the dollar. No to shouldering the majority of the economic burden. No, I will not be the only woman in the room. No, I will not discuss what I'm wearing. No, we will not accept 4.7% of venture capital. And especially, no, we will not accept businesses that harm us. Y carajo, no, companies that make money must not do harm. In fact, they must do good. And lastly, hell no. It is not solely the responsibility of governments and NGOs to solve the world's problems. It is ours. It is mine. It is yours. Thank you.